Hey, and a good Friday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Craig Majeski here, back with you here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel with the weather report. Yeah, I know I'm starting 30 minutes earlier than I normally do, but I've got a VA appointment I got to go to today, so I wanted to make sure I got your update here for this morning, get you guys ready and prepared for the weekend. And again, I do thank you guys checking us out to get your no-nonsense, straightforward weather report here without all that social media hype. We don't do doom and gloom here. Our motto is real simple: keep you prepared and not scared out there. And if you appreciate that approach, and if you're coming to this broadcast after the live broadcast, if you could please consider hitting that subscribe button. Do give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. It does help with that almighty YouTube algorithm as we try to grow our channel a little bit at a time. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into what we're seeing out there this morning, as we've got some thunderstorms here off the East Coast. See the lightning light up there. This is our tropical disturbance out here near Brownsville. I think we're going to run out of real estate before this one gets a chance to develop here for today. Got a few thunderstorms up here in the Dakotas, and we got a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings out near Phoenix here this morning. You can see that kind of crawling down near the bottom. The Maricopa County is under warning right now. But other than that, that's all we got. And of course, we do have ERIN out in the Atlantic. That's going to become a hurricane later today. We're also going to talk about a lot of heat building in the middle of the country out there as well. Now, as far as yesterday, our hot spot in the nation yesterday was Maricopa. Of course, that's right near the Mojave Desert, 116 degrees here in California. And new low, a different state this morning. We got Kirk, Oregon at 33 degrees yesterday was the cold spot there. All right, so let's go ahead and get in and look at our weather map here for this morning here, as we've got this stationary boundary kind of hugging in here for right now, and definitely cooler here across the Northeast. As this one trough, we got another trough that's going to dig in behind this. This is what's going to be catching our hurricane and eventual hurricane and kind of turning it out. Look how wet it is out here on the West Coast. They're going to be getting some serious rains out there, folks. I saw somebody report that Vancouver is expecting a month's worth of rain in a day up there. Just a real big atmospheric river of water going into the Pacific Northwest here for today. And it looks like we're going to have to watch for the flooding concerns. I get a little nervous. If y'all remember Barry, we had Barry back a few weeks ago. It was a tropical element like this. It formed right before it made landfall and moved in, and it kind of parked itself over Texas, caused a lot of flooding. So I'll be watching that one very, very religiously here going into the weekend. Make sure we don't get a repeat performance of that. Right now, I don't think we will, but we will watch it very, very closely. In fact, we'll go down here a little bit closer. Here is that little disturbed area just off the coast there of Brownsville, Texas there. So getting down there where they launched the starships at. So you can see the little swirl there. But like I said, we're kind of running out of real estate here real quick. So I don't know if we're going to get an actual named system out of it. It was right now we're running about 50%, I believe, is what they had out there for this morning for possible development. But like I said, I think it's going to move inland before we see any of that. The other part of the weather story here for today, and we've been talking about this, is again the return of the heat. And boy, do we have it back. Nebraska coming all the way down here back into the southeast. We've got a lot of these heat advisories back in here. That means those feel like temperatures over 105, 110 degrees range for a lot of locations. So, and that's going to be through the entire weekend, especially there in the middle of the country. When we break down those temperatures, you'll see what I'm talking about there. So just plan accordingly. You know, don't go stay outside any length of time you have to. And, you know, we are starting to get a little bit later in the summer. We still got about another month officially, but the days are definitely starting to get noticeably shorter out there. So at least the heat doesn't quite linger quite as long as maybe it would do about a month ago. But, you know, we're starting to see that kind of chip away a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and get out in the tropics. We're going to go ahead and give you the latest on what's going on out there. So here's the 5 o'clock advisory. We'll be getting a new one here. Actually, probably no one coming out here right now, but we'll get that later. Hey, Sage A. Malola, good to have you subscribe here to the channel. Welcome on board. Again, we're looking at the storm at 70-mile-per-hour winds. We're going to watch it become a hurricane today, and it'll continue to move off in a west-northwesterly direction now at 17. So it's starting to make a little bit of that turn. Expect to be a major Category 3 hurricane by Sunday. So right now we do have the hurricane watches, tropical storm watches up there, down there in the, right there in the Leeward Islands up there, kind of crawling down below. You can kind of see that. And it's going to kind of go by, the winds will only go about 90 miles from the center. So it's a fairly small system, not really that big, but it's expected to blossom and grow as it becomes a major hurricane going in for tomorrow. Here is the satellite imagery. What's interesting, you can still see that this is actually the dust plume. It's still kind of dragging the dust here with the system out here in the Atlantic. This has been one of the inhibitors out there. It's still dragging it. So it's continuing to pull away here. And then we got this trough back here that hasn't kind of moved off. We got one trough that's moving off, and then we got another one catching up behind it. That's going to cause it to make that turn off to the north and to the east. So the East Coast right now is not going to be too big of a problem as far as any weather's concerned there. However, one of the problems we are going to have out there is going to be the level of the wave action out there. We're going to be quite active out there. I do want to show you that real quick before I show you the model run. So let's go ahead and show you this real quick here as I go down to model 2. Here we go. So again, here is this system. We're going to see some pretty heavy surf. So anywhere along the East Coast, if you have any plans next week that takes you along from the Florida coast all the way up into the Northeast, you're going to see a lot of wave action, some heavy surf there, especially going to the Outer Banks, North Carolina. We're talking 10, 12-foot seas out there. It's going to be pretty rough as this thing's going to really kind of be like dropping a big rock in a pond and going to be setting up some heavy wave action there along there. Also notice, I couldn't help but notice when I was looking at this that, oh, look at this thing starting to spin up something else back behind this thing. Like, okay, when we get something else in there, we'll see. But even if there was something to follow up behind that system with the pattern we in, I think it does the same thing. It's going to curve right back out to sea between the high pressure system. So anyway, that's what we got to watch out for, that wave action here for this weekend. Now let's go ahead and talk about the model data here. I do want to talk about the latest out there real quick. So let me get back up here real quick, get back where I need to be. There we go, tropical models. Here we go. So here we go. Still got a pretty good diverse split there a little bit between the models, but you see all the pink. So you know we got a major hurricane. How close to the coast is it going to get? The closer to the coast you get, the hotter the temperatures are going to be on the periphery of that storm. And thank you for the donation there. Thank you very much. And again, that'll be kind of moving up toward the north and to the west and staying offshore. So we're going to worry about that one. And then we'll see if we get something else here to develop back behind this thing as we go into next week. Again, we're heading to that peak of the hurricane season. September 10th is the peak. So this is nothing abnormal here. And right now, so far, so good. We don't want to see a repeat of Helene and Milton like we had last year. We don't have anything like that for us there. All right, let's go ahead and break down what we're going to see weather-wise this weekend as far as any kind of severe weather risk. Let's go take a look at that here for today. As we kind of look at that, let me get that up real quick, get to the right slide here. Here we go. All right, so here's your day one outlook here. This is for your Friday. We do have some areas up here. Of course, this time of year, summertime, we always talk about the active weather track being up across the north. So we got a general thunderstorm threat here across the deep south, and here is our thunderstorm threat up here. Green is marginal, yellow is slight. So today's hot spots are going to be Minneapolis, over to Clare, Rochester. This is our area, Mankato. That's going to be the area for thunderstorms for today. Obviously, it kind of looks like a fish, don't it? I just noticed that. Kind of looks like a fish. Here's your tail. just things you pay attention to here. So tornado risk here, running about 2% in here. There was a couple isolated tornadoes out there yesterday there across the Dakotas, and we'll see if we get that again today. So this will be the area. Again, running about 2%. The wind threat will be, of course, the highest as our whale comes back here again with a bullseye right there. With yellow, it's running about 15%. And, of course, the hail threat will be in the same general area. Doesn't even change. So hail and wind threat in the same zones here for today. How about out through the weekend? Let's check out the weekend. Get you ready for the weekend, obviously. That is your day one, day two. All right, a large part of the country seeing a general thunderstorm threat, isolated for the most part. But there you see the green there kind of going from Michigan back to Wisconsin, over to the Dakotas, back toward Montana. So that's our zone for tomorrow. A few isolated severe thunderstorms, like we have a couple of them there in the Dakotas right now up in that area. And if we look at what our day three looks like here, again, same general area, so not really changing that much. But look how much of the country's got a general thunderstorm threat. The northeast, southeast, all over the place. A lot of the country seeing a chance of a storm. Doesn't mean that all these areas are going to get wet. It just means there's a chance there. So that's what we're going to see there. Now, as everyone, those who kind of watch this broadcast regularly know, I've been calling this summer the year of the flood because it's been so bad. We've had so many flood warnings here this summer. I really pay attention to this map a lot, especially the yellow zones. The yellow zones typically are the areas that are the ones that get concerned. You get yellow, you get red, and you got to pay attention there. All right, so we got some issues out there right now. You got the green. We got some isolated flooding from Pennsylvania down in towards North Florida, down in here, the Gulf Coast. Obviously, with that tropical element coming in down here, flooding could be a problem down near the Brownsville area down here, so watch out down there. So up along the Gulf Coast. I wouldn't be surprised if it stretches a little bit further north up toward Corpus Christi, but we'll see if they adjust that or not. The southwest, the monsoon's really starting to kick up down there. We have some pretty hefty thunderstorms down there in Arizona this morning, so we're seeing some of that down here toward Tucson, Sierra Vista, those areas down there. That'll be a problem to watch here for today. And then finally up here into the high plains, obviously with the hefty thunderstorms they're expecting up this way. We saw the severe weather threat up here, Minneapolis, Eau Claire, heading down to Du Bois, Iowa, Mason City. So everyone in there looking at that possibility for some flooding. And also the Northwest. I'm surprised that the Northwest is not lit up yellow, but I guess they can handle it. But they're getting a lot of heavy rains out there as well here for today. How about Saturday? Let's look at Saturday. Again, the southeast, the portions of the New Mexico because of the monsoon out here. Again, yellow here kind of going through Rochester, Minneapolis, Madison, north of Rockford, getting pretty close to Chicago. Again, looking at some heavy rain threats there. And going into day 3, doesn't change. Still holding up here day 3 across Minneapolis and into Minnesota and Wisconsin. So I'd say all weekend long, you guys up here on Minnesota, Wisconsin area especially, just be careful. Watch out for isolated flooding potentials here throughout the weekend. So be safe out there. If you see a flooded road, don't drown, turn around. That's what we always say here. Make sure you be careful out there for anything that's become a flood, because we've had some unnecessary deaths this year that have been really, really sad to see. All right, let's get into the model data. Let's go and look at the short-term model data here first. We're going to be looking at the intermediate model. Kind of take you through the next couple of days here as we kind of shift gears a little bit. Let's get over to the model data here. There we go. All right, so here we go. We're looking at your NAM 3-kilometer here, 6Z. Again, we got the storms up here and up here kind of fading on out here across the areas. Here, look at the Northwest. Northwest is going to get buried with a lot of heavy rains here. Onshore flow, just going to continue those rains coming in through Oregon. And then we got these little disturbances that keep rolling out of the Rockies and kind of drifting down. So the very active pattern here across the northern tier is going to continue. You see little rounds of thunderstorms that have developed. You see this one kind of roll up here going into Saturday and then kind of rolling across Minnesota and into Wisconsin. So again, that's why that flood zone's in there. And this will kind of move up toward the east here. And then that little disturbance, they still want to try to spin something off the coast here. There's that cluster of thunderstorms off the coast right now. Still wants to try to develop something here over the weekend. I don't see that happening, but yeah, I'm going to watch that closely. But scattered storms across the southeast, but otherwise, that's about it. That's the only organized system is this northern tier branch of these thunderstorms that keep pulling out. Here's one going into Saturday morning. Here it goes, Saturday night, and then kind of rolls off to the east. So we'll continue to watch these, and you see the rains kind of going into the northeast here, going into your Sunday afternoon. All right, let's go look at your rainfall totals. Again, this is through 60 hours. This goes into Sunday. So you can see the hot zones there lighting up very, very, very well. We'll take this all the way up to the end here. And we'll go ahead and stop this. We're going to highlight those areas up in here. You can see why this zone is lighting up like a Christmas tree. Look at all the heavy rains up in this area. There's a bullseye there. 5 inches plus, 3.5 inches there, 3.5 inches there, 3.5 inches there. So we got a lot of heavy rain up here for Wisconsin, Minnesota, back into the Dakotas here. The other hot spot is the Pacific Northwest. We got a lot of heavy rains up here as well. Around the Seattle area, there's 4.5 inches, 6 inches, 3.5 inches. So the Northwest, Washington State is under the gun there as well for weather. And then you get scattered storms across the southeast. These aren't bad. These are little ones at 1-2 inch rainfalls, and then heading up here into portions of Pennsylvania as well. But it's going to be the high plains areas down here toward South Texas. I think this is a little underdone with the tropical moisture coming in down there. And then you got the monsoon, which is kicking in with your heavy rains there into the southwest here going into your Sunday afternoon. All right, let's take a look at the temperatures here. Got this kind of looping in here. Again, the middle of the country. See that purple kind of pulsating up in there? That's going to continue to be there, folks. That's going to continue there all weekend long. That's where the heat's going to be. We're going to see this cool weather coming down into the northeast. You see that green kind of coming down in there. So the high plains aren't looking too bad, not overly hot. We're going to see things up here across the northeast as well as we wait for that next trough to kind of swing on off. That's going to catch the hurricane and pull it out. We're going to see things heat up across the southeast in the next week, continuing because of the hurricane's proximity to the coast. But once that pulls off, we're going to see cooler temperatures. Now, one little change in the long range. I don't think the cool air is going to get as far south as I was hoping it was going to get, as the jet stream configuration is going to kind of favor a cool down behind the system going into last week of August, kind of going into the Great Lakes in the Northeast. I'm going to show you that here in just a second to get you on board with that. So here is the European model again. Let me go and slow this down here. Here comes that hurricane there. Boom. This is the trough up here to the north. This is what's responsible for our big catchhead right here. So this one right here. Here's our hurricane down here. Kind of just troughing us out here on the west coast as well. But boy, is it going to be hot here in the middle. That is a lot of heat out here. A lot of heat out here. Okay, you're going to be dealing out with that. So again, watch that hurricane get picked up by that trough. Makes it approximately. The European is a little bit closer to the coast than most of the other ones here. Okay, so it gets close enough. It's going to be some pretty rough surf there. So Again, the lot of the periphery will be pretty hot going into next week. This is for Thursday. The heat's really going to be across the western portions of the U.S. Got the cool down. Here's that trough there in the east, picking up the hurricane, shifting it out. And then when this thing pulls on out, here's the trough that's coming down there behind it. Not as pronounced as before. So it looks like the cool down will be across the Great Lakes. This is going into the week of the 25th. Into the northeast, a pretty good cool down behind this one. We got a cool down here in the east. So that's probably one little subtle change, and then it quickly heats back up there. Look at the big, see the high pressure with the orange there, hilts up back up there in the east as we go toward the end of August. So it'll be a brief cool down, but it ain't gonna last very long. It's gonna heat right back up there as we go into the end of the month. Also notice the weather pattern getting a little more progressive with the jet stream a little bit. Just some subtle changes as we're kind of getting close to the end of summer there. All right, so here goes the European model here. Got this looping once again. You see the storm getting picked up right through there, getting lifted right on out to sea. I will say this with this cool down. I'm noticing this on the end. This is going out 10 days. I'm only going to let this go out 10 days. I usually don't go out above 7 because, it's kind of extrapolation. But I think this looks pretty good. I'll stop right there. The cool down, I see the heights here kind of falling down in here. So I see the cooler weather coming out in here behind the system. And then the front probably stalling here across the south. So I see probably going toward the end of next week, enhanced chances of rain here across the southeast because of an old frontal system. It's probably going to wash out down there in the deep south. 7-day rainfall totals, again, we're going to be watching the northeast, the Midwest, I should say. The southeast, some scattered storms. Obviously, the Pacific Northwest, there's the monsoon moisture there. And we got to see what this tropical, the models aren't picking up very well on this thing off the Texas coast. So I want to watch that to see if that changes over the weekend, to see if we see any more heavier rains kind of getting through Mexico and Texas or not. So I'll be watching that very closely. Here goes our temperatures through next week. Let's track this together, all right? Let's go into your Sunday again. You got all the heat here in the middle of the country. You see the temperatures a little bit warm up here before the front comes through on Sunday. You're seeing a few 90s up here into the northeast. Seeing some 90s through there. There's the frontal systems right through there. All right, so this is going to change here through the weekend. We're going to get the cool down here. Let's go into your Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon, there it is. Yeah, we're back in the 70s, so we're definitely cooling things off in the northeast. Heating up here in the Midwest, heating up into the southeast. The west's not looking bad. I mean, look at these temperatures. The other thing I've noticed here going next week, the southwest, we don't even see 100-degree temperatures out there. That's something you don't see very often in August. I'm sure those folks appreciate that. It will be backing off there a little bit next week. There's your 2 o'clock. There's your 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Cooler across the Great Lakes, the Northeast. Hot here across the Midwest and then the Southeast. That's continuing into your Tuesday. Again, with that, let's go into your Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, again, we're looking at the Southeast. You got a couple of low 100s out here. Not too bad. A little hotter up here toward Montana. The Great Lakes and Northeast looking at much, much cooler. I see a lot of 70s out here. Look at the 70s. But hot in Texas and Tennessee, look at 99 degrees, kind of hot there and there. Let's go to your Thursday afternoon. And looking much cooler here across the east, southeast looking hot. The west starts to heat back up again. I'm seeing some hotter temperatures out there. Once again, looks like we're back up to 109, 111, 112. I'm seeing that kind of heating up back again toward the middle of next week. So they get a little bit of a break here for the weekend. And then going into your Friday afternoon here, once again, the southwest. The temperatures here really back off here in the east because of the rain chances. This is because that front's going to come down here and stall as that hurricane pulls on out. The temperatures back off in kind because the rain chances come up here. So again, so the middle of the country, you notice how we started the week. It was very hot in the middle of the country, but then we back it off as we go toward the end of the week as we're going to get to the cooling effects of that hurricane kind of clearing on out there, at least the initial one. And then we got another one coming down going into the following week. So let's wrap this thing up. Look at your climate outlook here as we look at this. Again, kind of look at what's going on. Again, this is for the 20th to the 24th. So you notice we got the cool down there in the northeast sitting in there. It's going to be just brutally hot out here in the west, above normal here across the southeast. I was hoping for a cool down for the southeast, but for the out to this, and it's not showing it. So what that's telling me is we're going to have a jet stream that's going to be kind of pulling in the cool air across the Great Lakes in the northeast, and any front's going to stall here across the southeast. So you folks here in Georgia, where I live, I was hoping for a cool down going into that last week of August. Right now, it's not showing it. Could change. If it changes the configuration path, it really depends on the track of that hurricane, if it changes at all, and how it interacts with the jet stream as it rides northward. But for right now, it is going to be the Great Lakes in the northeast with a cool down, heat in the west and heat in the southeast as we get ready to wrap up the month of August. And as far as the 6 to 10 day outlook here, as far as precipitation, well, we got a little dry spot there in the middle of the country here. We get to dry out here in the Pacific Northwest, which I'm sure you guys aren't going to complain about after the drenching you're going to get this weekend. Again, going out for the 6 to 10 day outlook. And then the 8 to 14 day here, looks like pretty near normal here for a lot of the country, except for this little dry spot here and a little bit wetter out here in the west here as we go from the 22nd through the 28th out there, going into the end of the month. So we're getting closer and closer. Getting ready to flip that calendar here real soon to the end of August, and as we get ready to go into September. So not looking too bad out there. Who we got out there watching this morning? I see we got a lot of active things. So I've been noticing it's going pretty crazy. I got Florence out there. Good morning, Florence. Kim, good to see you there. Diane, good to see you out there as well. And Kim, thank you for the donation. I always appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. And again, any money I make on the channel, I just put back into advertising so we can move our little meter up there a little bit. We're averaging a few hundred views on this channel every day, and I think that's probably the best we can kind of hope for. Maybe grow a little bit at a time, but we're doing pretty good out there. I do appreciate you guys checking us out here for the weekend. If it's necessary, we'll see what happens. I still haven't got my Hurricane Central thing going. I've had family visiting this week, so I've not been able to work on my Hurricane Central report up. Once this storm becomes a hurricane over the weekend, I may do some special updates using my Hurricane Central template here to kind of work out some of the bugs in case we get a landfalling hurricane a little bit later in the season. I need to work on some things. So look for the Hurricane Central this weekend. Maybe I got to work at the TV station at Fox 5 in Atlanta Saturday and Sunday morning. So that's the only caveat that's going to take me away a little bit there. But if I get to work on a little bit this weekend, I will. I definitely will have it for next week. There's no Monday and Tuesday, I'll have it for sure. But I got to work at the TV station this weekend. So get to take my hat off and make myself look pretty. Anyway, you guys take it easy. That's y'all's update for today. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Otherwise, you guys take it easy. I appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.